I'm gonna say that we are incredibly fortunate to have essentially made it through this entire year. Now, I can't really conclude that until the final day, but I'm gonna assume that it will be the case. As expected, I wasn't expecting much on the 21st. I did feel very crappy that day, though, like I said in my prior videos. So, there is still high watch time frames coming up, actually, especially in January. Um, it doesn't mean anything though. Not setting dates, but I did want to mention a couple of notable time frames that I think are important. First and foremost, I just want to mention that I think it's abundantly clear that we are going to have this deity, this demigod, this antichrist figure come through and penetrate into our reality. And this is, for me personally, a fact. It's not a matter of debate anymore. There's too much predictive programming, there's too much perfectly synchronized numerology, and there's too much evidence for that not to be the case. Um, does that mean that it's going to happen at a convenient time frame that we expect? I think we've learned our lesson that things never happen that way. And judging by the scales, vast scales of time on the earth and in the universe, and generally speaking, eternity and the nature such, um, it doesn't, they don't happen fast like we expect them. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, it could be a decade from now, but it won't be. It won't be because intuitively people know, okay? Even non believers, intuitively people know and understand that there is going to be some sort of massive event, an arrival of sorts. Now, I may have shared this story before. If I have, I apologize, but it was so long ago. I mean, this would be about almost exactly a year now. So it's possible that I did. I would have to go back to my videos a year ago. But I do have a few new people watching, and those people back then who were watching my channel don't watch anymore, most likely. So I might as well tell it again. And why I think it could potentially line up with dates and timeframes that I will be watching for this arrival. So Soleimani, right? Soleimani, the soul I am, son of man, sun of man. I believe that that was a ritualistic killing, specifically symbolizing the death of Christ himself. So he was killed to symbolize the Son of Man. And then there was it was also to mock him because the first week of January there was a lot of talk of World War III. And then we had some really silly events and some really speeches that Trump made on that stage, which clearly indicated a form of mockery. But there is potential of it following up exactly 1 year later. I also had a strange event that occurred. I will tell you, Soleimani got killed on January 3rd. And this thing that happened to me in my previous job happened January 6th. So, Son of Man killed, rises again 3 days later. So, this was 3 days after the 3rd. I was working at these massive apartment complexes. One of them, I unfortunately am unable to tell you the street name because I don't want to get into it, but the street name alone has a lot of esoteric meanings to it. But what's more interesting is the actual building number that this happened in. And there was actually a lot of strange things that happened at this specific building out of a complex that had probably 16 to 20 different massive multi-story structures. Um, we had a massive flood in the garage on early morning hours of January 6th, and it completely flooded out dozens of cars. There was lawsuits, there were problems. There was a Lamborghini that was destroyed. Uh, so what's interesting about this is that it was at building 9110, and it also flooded the neighboring garage, which also has that number in it. So um, maybe it's a stretch, maybe not, but that was a sign for me. The water, the flooding, the water was a sign for me of a birthing water. Now, being as impatient as I was and am still, I expected it to happen this year, of course. But could part of the mockery be 1 year later? Now that's a matter of only a few days, well, in which we may find that out. It's certainly interesting to take note of. Aquarius in general, starting January 20th, the wolf moon, full moon. There are plenty of wolves in I've Pet Goat too, especially in the tower scene where um, the old hag is in the lighthouse. There's wolves all around her. I don't see anyone talking about them, by the way. But that just could be a symbolic of any full moon in general. So, in addition to that, I've been pondering this other dream I had a couple months ago about I don't know if you guys remember about I was in Times Square and time appeared to be frozen in place. And lately I keep seeing a mechanical clock over and over in my head. It's just this, I would say, a reoccurring vision essentially, where I go about my day and I'm seeing this wind up all the time in my head. And I keep thinking, reflecting back on that dream specifically. And I can't help but notice and ponder the thought that perhaps that when this deity arrives, it will be such a disruption to a time space continuum that it will actually temporarily freeze time. In addition to that, I think that it might have time go forwards and backwards simultaneously, creating fractal splits and singularities and all of the above. Um, so what was I seeing? I was seeing in that dream, I was in Times Square, New York, which is a place I used to go to a lot, by the way, when I lived there. I saw people in suspended animation, like frozen in place. And then I saw empty streets. They all seemed to be in their houses. There were a few conscious people that I noticed walking around, and we're trying to figure out what was going on in the dream. But the majority, it seemed like they were either gone or in suspended animation. Um, anyway, so and then the blood moon eclipse, May 28th, 2021. It's also a high watch date for me. But generally speaking, New Year's in January, I will be watching for this, what I honestly feel is an inevitable event, regardless of how long it takes. It's something that cannot be stopped and will not be stopped. Um, there's a lot, I understand that there isn't a lot of credibility because of all the date setting, but I think that's probably intentional to people, to have people lose faith in this. Anyway, have a good day.